I spend a lot more time now looking after my physical and mental health, because I know that when crunch time happens, I'm not going to be worried about those other needs. I can just get on and do the job.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ash. Thanks for having me.
You've been to many of these before. It's your first time here.
Yes.
Introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
My name's Tom Rigler. I'm one of the co-founders of Moropo. We're a mobile app testing platform. And previously, I was one of the co-founders of Moro, which is an app development agency, and about 5 failed startups before that, which I don't talk about so much.
But you also used to, as I found out about a minute ago, install TV studios.
Yes, yeah, I used to travel the world installing television studios, which was awesome. Did a lot of time in Singapore, in Brussels. Singapore's better than Brussels if you're looking for travel recommendations. And then decided to leave it for some reason.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's do the proper origin story. Like, are you from Bristol? How did this start? And then you got into your first business. How?
I'm originally from a horrible little town near here called Trowbridge. Wouldn't recommend. And then I travelled around, left Trowbridge when I was 14, travelled around the country, did a few years in London, Reading, and then I came back to Bristol 3 years ago and haven't looked back since.
Love it. Nice. You did all that travelling, and then you came back to Bristol 3 years ago, and you started your business yet? You started
yeah, so I started, Moro started in 2019. I quit my job November 2019. There was 3 of us. It was me, my co-founder, and this freelancer we found from Greece, and we thought we were absolutely smashing it. I quit my job, and we were working through all these software development contracts for our app creation agency. And then a few months later, COVID hit, of course, and we lost half our pipeline overnight. And we weren't sure what was going to happen. It was a scary moment. But then we ended that year with 7 of us, and then we ended the following year with 15 of us. Jeez. And then by the Christmas the following year, I'd exited.
Wow. Okay, there's a fast journey and a lot of growth in there. We skipped over a little bit at the start, right? So like 2 co-founders and a person in Greece, and then we were building apps. How does that happen? Because there's going to be some people that are already halfway through the journey and they're fascinated by the other questions I'm going to ask about the growth and the exit for sure. There's also going to be people here that haven't started yet, and they're like, well, what's the first step? So you just find yourself making apps? Do you jump on a trend? Are you good at that? What was your job before?
Yeah, so both me and my co-founder were app developers, which is really helpful if you're running an app development agency. And we'd spent our 20s going through all of these failed startups. We'd done an e-commerce business. We tried to do a health tech business. We tried to do, I think it was Tinder for casual restaurant work. That was particularly interesting because there was a web app and a mobile app, and we had a live chat feature in the app. So you could, if I swiped left on your CV, you swiped right on my job description, then we could start to chat. And I've never used Tinder before, so I don't know if that's the correct swipe directions, but. And then my co-founder Charles and I were coding this thing. I was on the mobile app, and I was like, oh yeah, we got this working now. Hi, Charles. And I looked over to his screen, and he was on the web app, and it just came up, hi Charles, hi Charles, hi Charles, hi Charles, about 14 times. So we thought, okay, we're not very good at this. We should go away and learn how to code properly. Mm-hmm. And so we went away, we did 4 years in startups, grinding our way through our software careers, and 2019 comes along, and we decided to do another startup, which fails, but then 3 months later we thought, oh, we know how to make apps, let's just do that. And so we got onto all the different development communities, and we just started hustling, really. Charles, my co-founder, we decided to keep him in the technical seat, and I had to go and learn sales and marketing and work out how to get those first few clients through the door. So I just went through my phone book, trying to phone up people who I'd met in my career and say, hey, do you need anyone to do anything? And they said, I'm sure we can find something, or no. Those were the 2 main answers. So the software that we wrote in that first 6 months, a lot of it wasn't apps. I wrote this C# program for an old employer, and I didn't know any C#, so I had to learn that and then work my way through it. And it kind of worked, and it got revenue in the door, and it got some client testimonials. And then once you do a few of those, you start to gain momentum, and once you get that momentum, then things start to fall into place. And so a lot of it was work around positioning. So we started off with a very broad position. We were, I think it was serverless software, web apps, and mobile apps for businesses of any size.
Sure.
Or any sector. And then we slowly narrowed that down over years, and we became React Native mobile apps for startups, and then at one point for scale-ups. And so we started to carve out our own little technical niche, and then find out where people hung out, and then start to go there and build the messaging and build the marketing stack around that.
Sure. I'm going to ask you a question about that in a second, but I want to just quickly come back to failing multiple times and still going. Cheap plug, one of our communities, Different, talks about what makes you different and what is different about you that allows you to, stand out in the marketplace, both as a business leader, as a founder, as someone who's ambitious with a career. It's got to be something different about someone that makes them build a company, fail, repeat that at least 3 times, and still keep going. Are you just a bit crazy, or is there something deeper? Like, what is it that's driving you, and or Charles?
Yeah, I mean, being crazy helps, obviously. But I think there's, I see this a lot, and I meet a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs, and there are similar personality traits. We do have a tendency to keep going and going again. But I think a lot of it is just, for me personally, is the fear of boredom. And that's what happened when I worked in those big corporate companies. It's just I just got really bored. I was an IT contractor for a major telecoms company. I won't mention who they are, but you can look up on my LinkedIn if you're interested. And we were working in 2-week sprints, and I got in on a Wednesday morning at the start of the sprint, and they're like, "Okay, Tom, we need you. We're building a new website. We need you to build these 3 components for the new website. There's going to be a new button. You're going to be working on that first, and then we're going to move you on to the header. We're going to be rendering that logo, and then we've got a little mobile menu that we're going to go down." And by Friday morning, I'd done them all.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I going to do now? What have you got next to me? Like, "Oh, sorry, we've got dependencies on other teams. You're going to have to wait a week and a half before they any work. However, you can't go home or go on holiday. You have to come into the office and sit here and look present and look coding." And whenever I think about going back to work, I just, and I know there's a lot of jobs that are a lot better than that, but for me, for that personality trait of mine of boredom is the worst thing ever, and I'd rather have horrific failures than boredom. And so,
okay, so that leads to a very natural next question: how do you reconcile against boredom? Because as a founder that's loves shiny things, ADHD is my thing. And I hate it sometimes. I love a shiny object. I want to chase new stuff all the time. I have to balance that. Consistency is important. You just chase your tail the whole time. How do you stop yourself from just doing constant sprints on new things all the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I have similar traits to you, Ash. I think we're quite similar people in that front. And yeah, it's for me, it's my co-founder. So Charles, he's my accountability. I tell him what I'm going to do, and I tell him, and then if I have not done it a couple of weeks later, he's like, when are you going to do that YouTube video on that thing you promised? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so you start to get into a pattern with that and some consistency. But also, I think the role that you have in the business helps a lot. So I'm the generalist. So, in any given day, I could be doing pitch deck, marketing, I could be on a sales call, I could be writing a bit of code, I could be doing some accounts. And that suits my personality because I don't get bored. I go and flit around, and I go and I can find ways to get interested in those little bits of the business. And so you just have to know yourself. I think work out what you're good at, and work out what you're bad at, and then train the bad bits out of you, or find a co-founder who's bad at them.
I think it's really liberating to hear that. I'm a generalist too, and I just feel like some days I'm just chasing my tail, hit my head against the wall, doing too many things, cognitive switching, all of that stuff. It just sounds like, and you're told this advice, books tell you to do the one thing, and that's cool. But when you're an expert generalist or a general expert, we had this conversation the other day about, it sometimes feels like you're good at stuff, but not amazing at one thing, so you're not valuable. But I think that's what leaders are at the end of the day, right? So that's great to hear if people are worried and riddled with imposter syndrome like I am, that we're not good enough, it's good to hear that you can build a genuinely great business out of that. So let's talk about that then briefly. You like doubled, well, tripled and then doubled and then exited really quickly. That's impressive. Like, congratulations, first and foremost.
Thank you.
What were your learnings? Like, would you change it again? How did you do it in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, there was a large amount of luck. The tech industry, in COVID, everyone was looking at their phones thinking, what are we going to invest in? And the answer was in front of them. And so there was a little bit of that, and then the growth that came out of that. So, we timed it right in terms of the market and in terms of where the app space was. That was mostly luck rather than judgment. But I think, the things I would change is I probably wouldn't put as much headcount on so quickly. We're running an agency model, and the natural tendency is to just get as many people as possible, because you're effectively, you're buying people and you're selling people. They're people businesses, and so the idea was always to put as many people through as possible. And actually, I wish we kind of slowed down and took it a little bit steadier in that front. I think the main kind of learning was just around, for me and Charles, is to work out what we needed to be successful. So before 2018, 2019, I used to just hustle the whole time. I would just, especially before I quit my job to work full time on the agency, is I was working remote, and I would work from Charles's spare room from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. At 4 p.m. our American clients, our first kind of couple of clients that we got in, would log on, and then I'd start working on their apps from 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. And we used to just do that like day in, day out, and then at the weekends we catch up on stuff. And you can do a little bit of that, but our view was that that's the right thing to do. And now my view is that I stopped really strictly at 5. In fact, I knew I was doing this tonight, so I stopped at 4 and played video games for an hour just to chill. I spend a lot more time now like looking after my physical and mental health, because I know that when crunch time happens, I'm not going to be worried about those other needs. I can just get on and do the job, and that's the difference.
It's kind of a rhetorical point, I guess, because we could probably talk about that for a long time. But I think it's almost a rite of passage that happens for most people. It's not like, oh, we've discovered a better way, so you should start that way. And I think you see this in popular, motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, for want of a better example, the Gary V's of the world, right? You look at his content 3 years ago. I'm not a super fan, by the way. I just think he's an obvious pick. 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was hustle, hustle, hustle. You've got like all the hours in the day. You finish work at 7. You've still got until 1 a.m. when you could be doing work. And now it's way more healthy. Like, of the stuff I see, it's way more healthy. And it's funny because it looked like he had burnout in the meantime. I say that joking, tongue in cheek. Like, it's funny to see that he's gone back and like changed his outlook. But I always do wonder, again, rhetorically, whether that's just the way things are, especially when you're starting relatively young. Average age of a successful entrepreneur is 42. So maybe at that point, it's not as feasible. You might have kids, family, caring, whatever you need to do. But if you're 20-something, early 30-something, just get the ability to hustle, and then you change.
I think there's a tendency to think that it can paper over the cracks in the rest of your business. But really, if you're spending 40 hours a week on the business, that should be enough time to make it work. Time is not the limiting factor there. It's your market, or it's your execution, or it's your idea. And I see people when they push really hard, I worry that they're trying to paper over some of those cracks.
I think it's really important. There's actually a video, again, cheap plug. There's a video I think we have in our community about figuring out what your rate is, and just figuring out your salary and dividing it by the billable hours in a year, the workable hours in a year, and then multiplying it by 2, because you need to factor in admin time, by the way, is a great way to figure out how much you're worth. And you can do it the other way around by going, okay, how much are we earning right now versus how many hours am I working? And sometimes if you're over servicing people, you can find that amount of money is just nowhere near. You exited. Did you decide that? Did someone offer that? Like, what happened? Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. So the business got to
do something new again.
A little bit of that. The business got to 800K in revenue, and then we also, Charles and I wanted to move into a product business. The agencies are great, but you're always working on someone else's thing. You never get the full ownership. And so we'd come in and we had one client who they came to us at $60K a month recurring revenue, and then we worked on their tech stack and helped them with loads of infrastructure stuff. And then a year later, they were at $200K a month recurring revenue, and we were like, wow.
Did your retainer didn't go up a huge amount?
No, but also we were selling them developer hours, sure. And they paid the same price at the beginning of the year as they did at the end of the year. And so we wanted to have something where we could focus on, where we could go deeper and use our knowledge of the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw this opportunity in app testing. Mm-hmm. As we were scaling up the team, we had more and more apps, and more and more testing happened. And our poor project manager Alex got lumped with most of it, bless him. And our clients didn't really want to do it. So automation made sense, but we went through lots of different tools, lots of different open source tools and paid tools, and we just couldn't find a decent solution. So we thought we must be able to build something better here. We applied for Innovate UK grant and won it.
Which is hard to do. It's like a 0.4% or 4%?
It's 8%. 8%.
That's easy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It was 8%, and that was 14 months for a team of 8, and that finished last November. And so we got the opportunity to build out this product. So that was part of the pull as well, is that we knew that we were government approved, as it were.
Sure.
And so and that's where I've been working in that business full time for 2 years now.
That's amazing. And so paint a picture for us now. What does everything look like right now, and where is it going?
So right now we're still, I would say, early product market fit. We've got a handful of customers, including one big US-based customer, and we're still doing a lot of feature development, a lot which they're driving as well, which is really helpful. I think the market's there. We've still got a lot of work to do to properly crack it, but it's exciting and scary at the same time, and those things never go away. Yeah. We're gonna open a round in the next couple of months as well. So we've got some runway extension and to build out some of these more enterprise features that people are requesting, and to do our darn security compliance that we know we have to do in order to get into enterprise market. But it's good. We've got we slimmed the team down, so there's a team just of 4 of us now, but we're extremely talent dense and efficient and effective. So we've got customers asking us for features, and we can ship those features anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks after, depending on the complexity. And then so that ability to be responsive is how we're kind of going up against our competitors, because our nearest competitor has raised 3 million, and our other nearest competitor is turning over 300 million a year. So it's a really busy red ocean space. There's lots of people being very defensive in their market position. So we have to be a little bit clever and a little bit innovative to work out how we kind of chip away at those and get into that space. So.
Sounds like who's going to be the person to acquire you in the next few years again.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. It's very difficult to know what's happening because it's such a disruptive ecosystem. I mean, all of software, especially apps and also testing. I mean, in testing, AI is everywhere at the moment, and so people aren't really sure what that looks like. Or, is it people testing, or is it people using AI to test, or is it the AI testing themselves? And then there's the
self-awareness. Oh no.
And then there's the code that's coming through as well. Is a lot of AI generation. Apple and Google are always either disrupting their own ecosystems or refusing to allow disruption from others. VR's coming along. So the space is moving really, really quickly, and we have to spend a lot of time with our customers and look ahead at the wider trends in order to work out what testing is actually going to look like in a year, 18 months, and try and build around that whilst also not pissing off our existing users. So yeah, it's not an easy job, but it's good fun.
Never is. I love that. I'm going to come to you guys for couple of questions in a minute, so prepare some. Maybe we'll do 2 or 3. But I have 2 more questions very quickly. One is very technical experience, very technical advice that you can give, but also more generalist stuff would be helpful for people that aren't in your sector. So, this is such a cliche question to ask in a situation like this, but what would you change, or what would your advice be to you if you started again? Because you've already done it like 4 or 5 times now. So what's the one thing you would do in the next business?
I would go narrower.
Okay.
I would definitely go narrower. So the tool we've built is quite broad. It's an end-to-end solution, and I wish we had built just one piece of the workflow first and got that to a really high level of completion and sophistication before moving on to the other pieces. Instead, we built kind of 3 or 4 features at the same time, and that's meant that we were slower to market, and we actually got beaten to market by one of our key competitors. And so now the space that they have taken is the space we originally were looking at. So now we have to pivot. And so, there's anything I was building now, I try and build it in a much leaner manner.
Nice. I love that. That's great advice, because it's something that's so emotionally difficult to reconcile. Like, you think, I'm have a smaller net, so I'm going to catch less fish. We did this in my old agency where I won't tell you the whole story, but we basically became an integrated agency doing everything for everyone. And in doing so, you become nothing to no one. And we all realized at the time we were all under 30, and everybody was pitching website projects. They've been building websites for 20 years before us, since the internet began. So we weren't winning them. We just didn't look like we were experienced enough. We weren't experienced enough. But we also did social marketing. And we grew up with Facebook, and my pitch was so much easier. I could just walk into a room and someone would go, "You look like my son's age, so you must know what you're doing." And so we give you that. And we did just social, and then we did just social for leisure and hospitality, and we pitched more work than we'd ever pitched, and we won more work than we'd ever won. And I think the reason for it, there's just one kind of piece of thinking here, is that someone should be able to describe what you do really clearly to somebody else without you even knowing that conversation's happened, which is the issue that occurs when you get too big. Virgin is hard to describe now because they have flights and rubbish internet and mobiles and money and hotels and cruises. It's hard. Whereas, good brands that get to scale are able to still tell you exactly what they do. Apple create beautiful machines.
I put out a new landing page on Wednesday, and I sent it to 4 people, cold outreach, and I got 2 leads off of it, but I actually got 30 hits on the website. I'm sure some of them are bots, but I think it says a lot about some of those 4 people that I sent it to must have sent it to others, because there's no other way of finding the landing page. And it's interesting. And actually, when you go on the landing page, if you click sign up, if you click start now, this particular piece of the product doesn't exist, so it just sends a notification to me, and then I can tell my co-founder to actually go and build it.
People want this. Hurry up! I love that. And also, I guess people don't Google hotels. People Google hotel here, October, whatever. That's what they do. And so it makes sense that you got better, or you saw more success when you became React Native in specific spaces, because people were Googling that tech stack for that thing, and it just makes sense. Thank you for your honesty on that. The final question I was going to ask you before I open it up is, what game do you play at 4 p.m. to take your mind off work?
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Yeah. That's very chill. That's an ideal game to take your mind off of work. That's true. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm doing Rocket League and getting really angry, and so it's probably not the ideal thing to take your mind off work. Gaming is, it's a good release. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks, Ash.
Round of applause.